Last meeting we were discussing the tour of Hudhoor in Germany. I think, is it finished? Then
well,
Holland?
no, in Germany there's so many things happen. I only finished with Belgium.
Yes.
Would you like to hear more about the rest of the tour?
Yes, of course.
Okay. During my visit to Germany, I met a very large section of the society from different countries, different ethnic groups in Germany. Germany has attracted a very large number of people from East and West and everywhere. And we had some meetings with them separately as well as together collectively. So I'll speak of that later on, but one thing I would like to share with you is the very special Anti-Ahmadiyya movement which is being launched all over Germany, with books being published in Bosnian and other languages, and strong one-sided campaign of maligning Ahmadiyya character and the character of Hadhrat Masih. This was more pronounced this time than ever before. You see, the most pronounced among them was the Turkish group, which has a very large presence in Romania. And the Turkish people have a habit of carrying their ulama, sort of ulama, not very well educated, but sort of ulama, with them. And they have this group habit, like Moroccans also. They have the habit of carrying their ulama along with them to keep guard over their faith, etc., etc. And all the ulama belonging to the Turkish ethnic group became exceptionally activated against Ahmadiyya, and they started working particularly among the Bosnians. There is every sign of their receiving some money from somewhere, because they wouldn't work without being paid for anything. They were the same people with whom we were in relation, and they never reacted like this. So I was talking of the hostility particularly unleashed against the Ahmadis by the Turkish group in Germany. Not the common people, but the ulama in particular. And in some areas it is reported that wherever they see any Bosnian joining Ahmadiyya, they make it a point to harass that person and to surround him and to tell him one-sided stories. And sometimes, such people are afraid, they don't know much about Islam. They say, these are the ulama, they know better, so they can disconnect their relationship with Ahmadiyya. Translated, then I'll come to the second part. See, there is no Saudi presence there at all. No Saudian ulama are doing this job. Somebody does, as proxy, as representation. There is some rich power, I don't know whether it's Saudi or Kuwait or anybody else, but there seems to be some rich, oil-rich perhaps power behind these anti-Ahmadiyya outbursts. Because they were the same people, they knew us, they were all right. Suddenly, why this upsurge? And all over the country, together. It shows the planning behind. And these ulama are now getting extremely interested in the hereafter of the Bosnians. They do not care what happens to them here in this world, what happens to them in Bosnia. They have never attempted to help the Bosnian cause, either in Albania or in Bosnia itself. It is Ahmadis who have been throughout welcoming them with open arms, relating with them at the family levels, and also regularly we send truckloads of aid despite extreme dangers to our youth, not only from England but also from Scandinavia, Germany and other countries regularly. So as long as that was happening, the Turks and others kept absolutely aloof from the real Bosnian cause here in this world. They said, let the Ahmadis do it. But when it came to their spiritual interest in Ahmadiyya, Then suddenly, they got alarmed. Oh, poor people, they would go to hell if they become Ahmadis, So let us concentrate on them and tell them, we are your real brothers, Those who helped you, who sacrificed for you, they're not real brothers. Don't be duped by them, they are Satans. And they will lead you to hell. So come to us and we'll tell you. Tell you what? Only that they are not Muslims. After that, they break their relations with them. Let them go to hell here on earth. Now the Bosnians, unfortunately, knew very little of Islam when they came over to seek shelter in European countries. Most of them were practically raised as atheists. They believed in nothing. And when we started contacting them with them, they said it in so many words. What are you talking about? This is a problem we are facing, but we don't know much about God and things. They did not know even kalima, they did not know namaz, etc. So we took pains everywhere to train them, to tell them what Islam is, what God means, and they should pray to God and turn to Him and become good Muslims. But only at least for this reason, that they have been ill-treated only because they belong to Islam, at least in name. And Islam has been the reason why they are being persecuted and most obnoxiously treated by the great powers. So we have been telling them, at least return to that Islam. Then you will be under God's care. So why to be beaten only in the name of Islam and not to get any benefit from Islam? That was our way of argument. With the grace of Allah, they responded. But till this time, when they started becoming Ahmadis, none was interested in them. None whatsoever. And then, another thing which you must know is that they were being completely monopolized by the church in England, Germany, Norway, Spain, everywhere. The church opened their doors to them, gave them shelter, and also started feeding them with the flesh of swine and gave them wine to drink, which they had never objected against, and offered them dancing and this, and they wanted to change their cultural values. And none of the Muslim countries or Muslim presence in these countries took note of this and felt any danger to their souls about this. It were we, the Ahmadis, who had the courage to speak to tell the truth of the whole matter with what was happening to them. And although, they were always accompanied by intelligence officers of every government where they had sought shelter. I'd never chewed my word. I told them, look here, there is one hand of some big powers which is responsible for your loss of your country and your migration to other countries. And it is the other hand of the same entity, the same force, the same person, which is holding you close to their breasts. And you don't know that it was the other hand which hit you. And you are being duped by this, embraced by the other. So we warned you and continue to warn them to guard their religion, faith, against the attempts of Christianity to win them over. He said, once you lose Islam, then you lose everything. Your entire entity will be lost. We never said, be Ahmadis. We said, for God's sake, guard your Islam and your culture and your values. And this is what, with the grace of Allah, started an awareness and consciousness among them of their own entity as Muslims. And with the grace of Allah, this all was well responded to by the Bosnians in all European countries and even America, Canada. Now, Up till this time, they were not concerned about what may have happened to them. We told them to abstain from eating swine, to abstain from drinking wine. We told them to be grateful to the people, not to kick back in any way, because they were, of course, your benefactors, we said. And you, Islam does not teach you to misbehave to your benefactors. Only stop short where religious interference begins and tell them, no, thank you, that's enough. Aid and help, okay, we accept it, but we will not change our faith for your sake. So it were only Ahmadis, I repeat, for the last so many years, who have been delivering this message and warning them against this. No Arab or no Pakistani mullah or no other Turkish alim or Khoja was ever seen advising them on these things. They did not care. They had become, many of them had become practically Christians here. They had started dancing and doing these things, and their culture was being destroyed. Many of them had become secular in the sense that they had become atheists. They did not care what happened to them, to their faith. Nobody among these so-called Orthodox. But somehow when they were getting closer to Ahmadiyya, who taught them all these things, who taught them Islam, then suddenly they were alarmed. Look here, this is the point where we cannot stop. I mean, we cannot sit idle and watch them being spiritually destroyed. If they become atheists, they're safe spiritually. If they become Jews, they're safe spiritually. If they become extremely materialistic, they're quite safe, of course. Materialistically, it's all right. Islam can, live simultaneously, hand in hand, with atheism, with Christianity, with Judaism, with all misconducts. Islam and Ahmadiyya, they can. This is the ultimate God will not tolerate. They will be dispatched straight to hell if they become Ahmadi Muslims. This is the only reaction they have shown. Is there any logic in it? It's impossible. It is exactly like the Holy Quran tells us about the time of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. These people said, Ahl Kitab and the Holy Quran records it, that let a people be idolaters. The idolaters are better than Muslims. See? Anything else is better. So they are repeating the history of Islam, of early Islam. And anyone with some common sense should recognize these people. They are no friends of anybody. They are only enemies of the truth, that's all. See, again, they do not hesitate to tell them lies about the Ahmadiyya history. They say they are like Baha'is, as if we have rejected the Quran, na'udzubillah min zalik, or walked out of the obedience of Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, na'udzubillah min zalik. So they tell one-sided stories and lies, but also they hide facts about themselves. You see, the picture they paint before the Bosnians is simply this, that look here, you have one choice, either to become Ahmadis or become a Muslim. And the rest of the Muslims are just one thing. One body, big body. So you have to choose between the small faction who claims to be Muslims and the main large body of Islam. You belong to them, which would you like? They say, we don't like divisions, we don't like splits. Naturally, they say, we would like to remain with the mainstream Islam, which is just one. When they come to meet us and we tell them, then they're surprised. When we tell them about the differences between Shias and Sunnis, they say, is that so? The differences are that big? But they told, but the rest is just one. They cheat them, and that means that they're hiding their own differences among themselves only to defeat Ahmadis. While according to them, those differences are so important that they if they stick to those differences, some of them, according to the others, should go straight to hell. So they are not interested in their heaven either, not in the hereafter either. Because if they have saved us from the clutches, saved them from the clutches of Ahmadis, why don't they save them from the clutches of the Wahhabis or the Hanafis of Turkey, or Sufis, or Shiites, and Alawites, and so on and so forth? They know, they say it among themselves, they talk of this. They say, we are the only sect in Islam which is true and which will go to heaven, the rest are hellbound. So they have saved them only from one door leading to hell. The remaining doors remain open. They don't care. See, we never told Bosnians, never, anything about the Turks, their faith, and Wahhabis and their faith, etc. It was unnecessary. We told them this is what we believe and this is the logic of it. So if you want to accept it, welcome, otherwise remain Muslims as such, but learn to pray to God and behave like Muslims. But now they have involved us, they have dragged us into this. And we'll have to tell them, and we have started telling them the truth. You see, we have so much to say, and these people don't understand, and ultimately their policies are bound to be frustrated. More they make an effort to stop Ahmadiyya, the more they will fail to achieve this purpose, and on the contrary, Ahmadiyya will grow more popular, because when we'll tell them all these things, as I'm going to tell you, then they will understand. They have this wisdom to know and to understand things when they see. You see, until recently, the people of Turkey, by a very large majority, hated the word Wahhabiyyat. And they could not tolerate the name of Saudi for two reasons. And we have now to enlighten people as to why. What was the history? Why have they suddenly changed their stance? There are two reasons, one political and one religious. Almost entire Turkey belongs to Hanafiyat, very staunch Hanafis, or Sufism. Both are the sects banned in Saudi Arabia. They cannot hear the type of Sufism which is so popular in Turkey, with dances of Maulana Rume's songs and things, with Sufis playing music and this. This would be unheard of in Saudi. And that is why they are condemned to be hellbound, because of these habits. So they have been hating in response to Saudi's censure of their habits, that they are in fact only the qashar, the cover of Islam. The myth, the sense, the logic and the philosophy of Islam is unknown to them. They're just covers, formal people doing this formality, without Islam sinking into their hearts. This has been the Turkish response to them. And the second thing which in fact embittered their feelings towards Saudi was that there was a time when the Ottoman Empire stood like a wall between the Muslim world and the European world, extending from one corner of Turkey to the other corner of Palestine and Syria, etc., etc. They stood in front of the invasion and intrusion of influences from the north to the south. Somehow they had to be broken. Otherwise, the Western world could not enter into the world of Islam. So they employed the forefathers of these Saudians. And what I am saying is, I am quoting from the history. You see, this is a common street. Nobody hides this fact anymore. It was the British who planted the forefathers of the present regime and came into written contracts which have been published now by their historians. It's for anybody to see. If you like, I can bring the Gibbon's history or some other history and show you the contract and the details. They were bought over by the British for the purpose that they would overthrow the Ottoman Empire's, influence, hold on Arab countries. And they gave them the line of propagation. They said, you are Arabs, they are Turks. What right have they got to rule? They never asked them, you are British. What right have you got to come in? to conspire against, to make us conspire against a Muslim government. But we listened quietly. How many carbines would be given by them, how many pounds sterlings would be given to them per year, and so on and so forth. But they must, in return, strike at the long communication route, railway route between Turkey and Syria, and strike at the railways and destroy this communication. This is what they did. And then they ousted the Sharifs of Mecca, those Sharifs which belong to the noble house of Jordan. And they rebelled against them with the British help, of course, everybody knows. No sane man would even dare to deny this. It's all recorded. And with the result that a new regime was born around Mecca and Medina. Now this regime is as much under the British influence today as it ever was before. At one stage, one of their forefathers, the great Amirs, when the British consul was angry with him for something, he said, you are like my mother, you are my father, my everything. Count me as slave. Whatever you would wish, I will do, or we will do. Please don't be angry with us, don't misunderstand. We are like slaves bought over by you forever, and you will find us loyal. And they have been loyal indeed. So this is the history which has to be repeatedly told to the present generation. But we left it alone, why should we do it? But now they are coaxing us onto it. I'm willing to tell them, they are the people who destroyed the Ottoman Empire. And now you are serving their cause and working as their proxies to spread lies against Ahmadiyya. And the major lie they spread against Ahmadiyya is that they are the British agents. Thieves crying thieves, wolves crying wolves. They're calling us British agents, imagine. And the Bosnians, having taken shelter in Britain, in Germany, everywhere, they only object to my having come to England and quote it as a proof that we are British agents. So for God's sake, use a grain of grey cells in your mind. You who have sought shelter in Germany, are you German agents? Benazir Bhutto, when she came and sought shelter, was she a British agent? What about Nawaz Sharif when he comes? But the other one, Altaf Hussain. What is he doing here? What is he doing here?
Many people.
And many people from Arabia, from all over the world. Even Karl Marx sought shelter here with the British. Did they all become British agents? So if this is true, then all these people are British agents, so why not add a little bit of Ahmadiyya to that? But then you will have also become British agents in Britain, German agents in Germany, and so on and so forth. And what are we doing for the British? We are advising you against the possible danger of their religion, engulfing you and taking you over. Is this how the British agents work? Why did not the Saudis warn you against this? Why did not the Kuwaitis warn you against this? What were they doing when you were sleeping in the churches? Why didn't they open up their mosques for you? So this is what we have to tell them now. And when we tell them, the response is most wonderful. They cannot stop us anyway, whatever they may. When I went to Germany, you know, those who attended to our call to attend the meeting with me, question answer session, of those on that day, 1,032 or some became Ahmadis and got initiated at my hand, there and then, despite their cries and everything. Allah's will be done. Nobody can stop, nobody can frustrate Allah's plans. وَمَا أَنْتُمْ بِمُعْجِزِينَ. This is a verdict of the Quran which is unchangeable.
Permit me, Hudhoor, to adjust one word. Yes. I heard it from, I told you that I was from Ansar al-Sunnah. I heard it from the Imam of the Ansar al-Sunnah. He says Abu Jifa, not Abu Hanifa.
Yes, right.
The Jifa is this...
I know, they refer to him as Abu Jifa.
Yes, Abu Jifa.
I've read that. Yes. You see, again you should remember that they ousted the rule of the governors from Jordan, in the name that they are foreign agents. They said they were agents of Turkey, which is a foreign country. No Islam was involved in there. They must be overthrown. And as a punishment for them, they prevented them from performing Hajj for quite some years. The Saudians, when they became the custodians of Mecca and Medina, they prevented the people from Jordan belonging to their faith, Shafi or whatever it was, to perform Hajj. And you know who forced them to withdraw that restriction and permit them to come to Hajj? Because the Hajj was a common, common worship, or let's say, because Hajj was essential for every Muslim to perform, like other forms of worship. So some power told them, we will not permit you to stop any Muslims from performing Hajj. You know who it was? The British government. The British government guarding the rights of other Muslims to perform Hajj and stopping them forcibly from preventing these people from other countries. And again, it was the British government who took care of the rights of the visitors to Hajj, that they will not be robbed on way to Mecca by the tribes around. And this matter is also published in history books. I'll show you tomorrow, all these things. And they were told repeatedly that this is a place of peace and security. Who told them? Not God, the British. On behalf of the Quran, they were who were enforcing Islam. And they said, so you have no right to rob anybody. If we hear of it, we'll punish you. So they stopped doing it on way. But no, first of all, they stopped doing it in Mecca itself. They said, all right, it's clean. But they robbed them and they went back. So the British had to put their foot again once more. Said, we will not tolerate it in the territory of Saudi, anywhere, Hijaz. Nobody must be unsafe in this territory when he comes for Hajj or returns from Hajj. This is the history of their relationship with the British. So if they were British agents, let them be, because it was the British who were teaching them Islam. Only I object against their rebellion against the Ottoman Empire and the colossal damage done to the cause of Islam. That is, of course, objectionable. But as far as the religious interference is concerned, this is quite welcome, They taught them how to behave according to Islamic values.
Yes.
Before that, I also told you that many a leader from all over the world, throughout history,
Yes.
have been coming and seeking shelter in Britain.
Yes, from Egypt also many people.
From Egypt,
everywhere.
yes, even today.
Nah.
From Egypt, from Morocco, from everywhere. Also from even Karl Marx, sought shelter here.
نعم فاتني
And
هذا.
the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir, she has spent many years of her life because she was not safe in her own country. So also Altaf Hussain, the leader of the immigrants to Karachi, cannot return to his country because he doesn't feel safe. It is the British people who have been giving shelter to all those who did not feel safe on their own soil. So have they become the British agents? Now, as far as the service to the cause of the British or the European Christians is concerned, let's see clearly who is serving the cause of the Christian powers. I can prove it like 2 and 2 make 4. We are the only sect in Islam which have been, in fact, stigmatized for believing that Jesus Christ is not alive, is dead. And the ulama can forgive us any crime but not this. He said, the moment you say Jesus Christ is dead, you have nothing to do with Islam. You are welcome to believe that Muhammad Rasulullah is dead, no problem. Jesus, no, I will not let you touch him. Is still alive in the heaven. And this is the main reason why Christianity has been spreading throughout the world of Islam. Because they have not been able to argue the case of Islam against their own belief. That all other prophets of Allah died, but Jesus did not. He was raised bodily to the heaven and is still alive. So the Christians, what they said to the Muslims ordinarily in common, the Muslims of the common run in Muslim countries, ordinary Muslims, they say, look here, when the kuffar in Mecca demanded from your Prophet Muhammad Rasulullah to rise to the heaven and return so that they could see and bring a book, what was the answer given by your Prophet? قُلْ سُبْحَانَ رَبِّي هَلْ كُنْتُ إِلَّا بَشَرًا رَسُولًا. So rising bodily to the heaven according to the Quran is beyond the scope of prophets of Allah and beyond the scope of Bashar. And you believe, according to the Quran, that Jesus Christ rose to heaven bodily. So if this verse of the Quran is right, then he is neither Bashar nor prophet. He is more than a Bashar and more than a prophet. This is their mainstay against the Muslim beliefs, and this is how they enforce Christianity everywhere. This is one of their major instruments against Islam. Who declared that Jesus is dead? Like all of the prophets of Allah. The founder of Ahmadiyya, Hadhrat Mirza. He said, let Jesus die, because the life of Islam depends on that. If you let Jesus live, Islam would die. So he said, I have no choice but to accept Jesus as dead and work for the life of Islam. We are British agents, imagine. And they are the enemies of Christianity. Allah bless them. But before that, you forgot to tell them about the Bosnians meeting.
Yes, I will
Before this, just tell them
yes.
that when they made all their efforts to malign Ahmadiyya and propagate against us, still Bosnians came in large numbers to attend my conference.
بعد كل جهودكم.
And in one sitting, more than 1,000 Bosnians got initiated into Islam and to Islam Ahmadiyya. They were not Bosnians alone.
Yes.
They were a mixed gathering from Bosnia, Albania and Kosovo. And Kosovians. Kosovo. Kosovo.
Where is that?
Kosovo is a part of Yugoslavia, outside Albania.
Yes.
Hundreds of thousands of Muslims live there in that part. See, when we say Jesus is dead, You are cursed, go to hell. We'll not tolerate, we'll never hear of the death of Jesus. And he said, don't you believe that Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah also died? Yes, Alhamdulillah. That's all right with us. You may believe. This is their love of Rasulullah. The belief of Hazrat Hassan Sabit was different. He said a very different thing. Exactly his belief was Ahmadiyya belief. Although Ahmadiyya was not born. What he said was, Kunta sawada linaziri. O Prophet of Allah, Muhammad Rasulullah, Kunta sawada linaziri. Fa'amiya alayya naziru. When you have died, eyes have become blinded. Man sha'a ba'daka falyamut. Fa'alayka kuntu uhadiru. Let the whole world die. I do not care. Only I care for you. What they say is, O Jesus Christ, kunta sawada linazir. Amiya alayya nazir, when the Ahmadis got you killed, they blinded us. Man sha'a ba'daka falyamut, we don't care. Whose faith is Islam? Let them decide. So this is the nature of these British agents, everybody can see. And it is we who are converting the British themselves to Islam, their agents.